I read a really interesting article in the New York Times the other day with a headline that said, "For kids and COVID vaccines, just one dose for now." And I thought, wow, it was really interesting as I read this article because it was much more, I would say, nuanced and a much more complex approach to the issue than we have seen here in Canada and with Canadian media. Yes, the headline item was about vaccine doses and saying, okay, maybe we're now going to move towards just one dose for teenagers, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds, and so forth, and also a bit of talking about the 5 to 11-year-olds as opposed to doing the 2 doses that we're doing now. And it was looking at the different jurisdictions, considering that, exploring it, what some different experts are saying. And I feel like here in Canada, if someone were to step forward and say, why are we giving 2 doses to teenagers? We should only give 1. Maybe that person would be called an anti-vaxxer or something like that. That level of nuance is just not really in our discourse right now, even if there are pediatricians or epidemiologists and so forth, vaccine experts who are actually thinking these very issues. It's not kind of getting out there. And I found it kind of funny that things that are in the New York Times, the US's, I guess, paper of record, are things that you would not see really in Canadian media because, oh no, we can't really talk about that here. We don't cover it here. I mean, the article was very interesting for offering varying perspectives of individuals. There was someone quoted who was on the British vaccine advisory panel saying, look, this whole idea of vaccinating a teenager to protect the elderly, I mean, that's immoral. That's unethical. That was a quote from this gentleman there. Again, something that I feel like wouldn't make its way into the Canadian discussion and the Canadian media coverage, and it was kind of refreshing. And one thing I saw later, I noticed there was a correction at the bottom of this article that they had initially in a first draft vastly overstated by tenfold the number of kids that had been hospitalized in the US with COVID. And they issued a correction saying, we got it wrong, here's what the number actually is. And I saw on social media, people were making fun of this and saying, oh, look, this article is fear-mongering and so forth. I thought, well, that's funny that it's considered fear-mongering on that regard, because my original impression as someone who's just mostly used to reading Canadian media is, well, it was actually the opposite. I mean, they were saying things that would have been considered risque. And it's quite curious to see this phenomenon unfold. I've seen it repeatedly where I would say American media that is liberal or centrist or even the left wing is unpacking things in a very complex way, a much more complex way than you're finding here in Canada, than even, say, right-wing politicians are willing themselves to say. There was a lot of criticism of various lockdown measures in major prominent American publications all throughout this year, really moving towards a much more evolved and balanced and I think mature approach in conversation for everything, for lockdowns, for what the vaccine rollout strategy really is. And, well, it's really refreshing to see that it's happening there. And, well, I guess it's the opposite. It's disheartening to see that it's still not really all that much happening over here.